In this lesson, we are going to talk about formatting strings. So what exactly does it mean to format strings? Well, it means to structure a string based off of potentially variables that you've got, or the overall structure of the string itself, so that it kind of looks uniform with a bunch of others. You're basically just going to be working with these strings and kind of combining multiple things together with that. So today we're going to talk about exactly how to format strings. We're going to talk about some of the different methods, the percent modulo method, which I'm going to tell you don't use that unless you absolutely need to. We're going to talk about the dot format method, and then we're going to finally finish this up and wrap this up with f strings that's in there. So let's get started on how to format our strings. So here's kind of a hypothetical situation. Let's say we've got a problem with R2D2, and we've got to kind of work with him here. And so I'm going to pull up R2D2's log status, and it looks something like this. So we've got 001, and that's task 1 starts initiate connection to the computer, and then at time 2 we start task 2, complete, set urgency level to high, and then at time 6 task 1 is complete, connection to computer established, and then at time 6 again, we start task 3, start initiate shutdown of the garbage compactor, right? And then finally at time 20, task 3 is complete and garbage compactor has been shut down. That's in there. So the task, we're kind of looking through, and we see this kind of set of log inside of R2D2. How would we go about printing this out, or saving this to a file, or working with this? Because this is a computer, this is a log, it's done this. You've probably seen logs in a whole bunch of other different places in real life. How does that get printed out? How does that get that formatted? Well, we can print them out manually like this, and this is really, really laborious to do this, especially when a lot of these are kind of variable type things. So this first value is the time, and the second one is a task, and then the third is kind of like a status of that, and then finally the fourth is a message that's in there. And so we want to be able to print those out, based off of the variables that are in there, and to manually print that out, that just becomes really, really tedious. And we're using Python, right? We should be able to do this a little bit easier. So printing out each line, doing it that way is kind of difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to set some specific variables. We've got time is equal to 0. Our task number is going to be the first one, so 1. Task status is started, and the message we're going to do is initiate connection to the computer that's in there. So those are going to be our messages. Those are going to be our variables that we're going to be working with there. And we want to do a formatting kind of here. So wink, wink here. Think about this. Is we have time, and then a space dash, and then task number, and then space dash, and then a task status, and then a space dash, the message that we want to put in there. So this is kind of the overall format that we want this to kind of look it up. We were able to kind of break this down into something, somewhat manageable. Now, how could we programmatically do this and work on this? Well, so one of the first things you can do is the percent modulo method in there. And so this is actually the kind of old way of doing print strings. And this comes from, if you've ever done printing using C or C++, this looks very C-like. You have that. And you have these, so this string that's in there, this format, is you have this string, and then wherever there's a %D or %S, that means take that value and insert it into there. So what we've done is we have this string where there's a %D, %D, %S, %S, and then this % here and then time, task number, task status, and message. And what it does is it unpacks this tuple that's here and prints it out into this and unpacks it into this. Now, I'm definitely recommending that you don't do this and don't use this method unless you absolutely need to. And the only reason why you would absolutely need to is if you're using Python 2.7, which you shouldn't be using because it's been retired. So don't ever use this unless you absolutely need to. So yeah, that's kind of what happens. And so this time gets extracted over into this D, and this task number gets extracted over into this D, and this S and that. What does the %D and %S mean? Like, what exactly are those? Well, let's look and see. So D means integer, F means float, S is string, and X is hex. So essentially, these are all just kind of data types, the data types that we have in there, right? So one of the things, though, is you have to keep track of what that is. So for example, in this here, I have D, 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 and D. Well, task status and message aren't integers. You can't convert them to an integer there. And so that's going to fail. That's in there. And you actually see, here's the traceback right here. You've got a type error, and the error that you get is, well, %D format, a number is required and not a string. That's in there. So this is one way that you can do it and save a little bit of time from having to type it all out manually. But man, this kind of looks really, really it's kind of sore on the eyes. Well, the next thing that you could do, and one more thing to kind of talk about is it's still not quite what we wanted, right? So let's go back to this here, to this original one here. So we have 0 and then this task 1, but the 0, the time is just 0. I want this to be 4 zeros in there, not just 1. So there is something that you can do to solve that, and you do the %04D. And what this means is, this says, so %D means we're looking for an integer, and we're going to unpack an integer into there. The 04 means fill that with 4 characters, and the filler character to use is a 0 that's in there. So the 0 comes in here, but then fill out the rest of these characters as zeros that's in there. So next up, we have the format method. Now this is the method that you're going to want to use most of the time if you're using anything that's Python 3, Python below Python 3.6, and including Python 2.7. So if you have Python 2.7, dot format actually works and has been around for a really, really long time. What this does is it actually builds upon the modulo or % method, and makes things just a little bit clearer to the reader of kind of what's going on. So what you do is, instead of percentages, you use these brackets to indicate the location of where you're putting your variables that are in there. So here we have our bracket and then this colon and then 04. So there's that 04 again. Fill in the empty space with the 0 character and make sure that it's at least 4 characters long. That's in there. Now, so we have these empty brackets, and we do this string that's in here like this, and we do dot format like this, and then you put in the values as they appear in the string, and they get unpacked into here. So time is going to go over to here, task number is going to go right here, task status is going to go right here, and then message is finally going to come in here. And you can see this looks exactly the way that we want it to look. What you can do is you can actually assign variable names to the string locations. So for example, you've got time and then colon 04, and then task, and then num is right here, and then status is right here, and then message. And then if you do the dot format, you can do this, where time is equal to time, status is equal to task status, num is equal to task num, and then message is equal to message. That's in there. So I did this on purpose where some of the variables matched up and some of them didn't, just to show you that they're independent of each other. And then additionally, you'll see that they're out of order here. So time, then num, then status, then message here, but then time, status, num, and message is here. Because you're using keyword names, it goes and it hunts them down and puts them in there for you. You don't have to necessarily put them in the same order that you put them in there for. So here we go. We've connected this and we've done that, and voila, that's been done. Now, one thing you can do is you can actually save this format. So we're doing this print statement automatically in here, but you could save this as a template that's in there. So we have this R2 log entry that's in here, right? And then we have this log entry template that we're using. And then once you have that template, what you can do is you can print out this log entry.format, and you have time is equal to time, status is equal to task status, num is equal to task num, and message is equal to message. And that's the exact same thing. So you can actually save these formats as a template and use them over and over again if you're going to be using them in multiple different places of your Python script. Now, for the final thing that I want to share with you, this is just awesome. This is everything I'm going to be showing you from now on. I'm assuming you're using Python 3.6 or above. The latest right now is 3.8. And so you definitely have f-strings available to you. And what's great about f-strings is it has been reduced all down into just one thing. So now we have the variables time, task num, task status, and message already in the system. And let me kind of show you what I mean by that. So I've got a module 3. I'm going to do a new file, and I'm going to do string format.py. That's in there. And I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and I'm going to take my formatted string here and copy and paste that over to here. And then, so time is equal to 0, task is equal to 1, task underscore status is equal to started, and then message is equal to connection to computer has been initiated. And now I'm going to do a print of this statement like this. I'm going to do Python string format like this. Task num is not. Save that. Run this. And voila. There we go. We've got that. So now instead of using the format or the template in there, you're directly inserting into this f string these variable names along with any type of formatting that you've got in there. Let's say we want to change this. Let's say we want to do dashes instead. Let's see what that looks like. And you can see it actually does dashes that's in there. Actually not dashes. So that actually is doing F aligned. So let's do a different character. Let's do a star character instead in there. I think that will work. Oh wait, nope, that's not gonna work. How about, well, that's not gonna work. We'll just do 0.4 just to make this easy on you. Either way, there are other ways to, and other things that you can add into there. And now I can actually change this. So this is completed in there and has been, let's say, terminated. This is going to be at time 25. Run this again, and now you can see we have a totally different thing that's in there. So F strings are great to do that. And the way that you create them is having this F character in the front and in front of the actual string that you use to create that's in there. And then you use the brackets to indicate where you want to insert this variable and this variable thing that's in there. You can actually do some kind of crazy things in there. You can do mathematical operations. So for example, this task num, I can do +1 in here. And so now you can actually see that this increased to task 3 that's in there. If these were dictionaries, you can do dictionary lookups. If these were tuples, you could do tuple indexing. We can do indexing of this right here. So we can just do the first 3 characters, and you can see COM is right there. So you can even do some interesting operations in there with that. I love F strings. I think F strings are really great. You just kind of have to get an idea of how that works. So hopefully that history of using the modulo and the percent that then kind of gets inserted into that, and then using format where you can kind of have these keyword names and you format them in there. And most of the time what people did is just named the variable name with what the format key was going to be. And the thought was, well, if we're going to do that, let's just shortcut this and just immediately put the actual variable in there, and let's just take care of all of that. The great thing about these F strings is you don't have to worry about the type anymore. You don't have to worry about if this is an integer or if this is a string. Just let it do what it needs to do, and boom, it's got it there for you. So there you have it. We've done a deep dive into strings. We've learned about what they are, how to work with them, kind of what the different methods that they have with them, and then finally how to format them, how to do and play around with them and make them work and look the way that you want to look with them, look for you. And so there you have it. We've learned all about strings. I'm proud of you that you've made it this far, and you've kept going strong with this. Keep up the great work, and I can't wait to see you until the next module.